Refer to the accompanying data set here of 20 randomly selected presidents. Treat the data as a sample and find the proportion of presidents who were taller than their opponents. Use that result to construct a 95% confidence interval estimate of the population percentage. And based on the result, does it appear that greater height is an advantage for presidential candidates? Why or why not? So let's go ahead and open up our data. So here's the column that represents president. Here is the height of that particular president. And here's the opponent's height according to that particular year. So let's go ahead and open this up in the StatCrunch. So we're going to open up this in StatCrunch. Okay, so you can see here's the first column. Again, here's the second column, and here's the third column. So what we want to do is we can either go ahead and then just go ahead and count and see where the height is higher than the opponent's height, or we can create a column. So if we want to create a column, we can easily do that by just going to Data, select Compute, and an expression. And we're going to build an expression. So we're going to take the height of that president. So you're going to double click and then minus, and then double click the height of the opponent, and then select OK, and then select Compute. Okay, so now let's go ahead and take a look at this data. So I'm going to go ahead and then copy this data into our notebook. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how many positive values that we have. So all the positive values that we have are going to represent where the president is taller than its opponent. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So it looks like we have 11 in there. Okay, so therefore we have 11, in this case, successes out of 20, which is the sample size or the observation. Okay, so now we're going to be able to use those two numbers when we want to find our confidence interval. So let's go ahead and do that with StatCrunch. So now we're going to go to Stat and then select Proportion Stats. We're going to go to one sample, and then we're going to say with summary. Okay, so the number of successes in our problem, we determined there are 11. So we have 11, and then out of the observations was 20. And then what they're asking us to do is to construct a 95% confidence interval. So we're going to select confidence interval, and then 0.95 is already in there. And then we're going to go ahead and select compute. Now let's go ahead and copy this into our notebook. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. So looking at the confidence interval, okay, here we can see what our lower limit is and what our upper limit is. So there is our lower limit, and there is our upper limit. So we're going to round the lower limit and the upper limit both to 3 decimals. The lower limit is going to be rounded to 3 decimals, so that's going to be 0.332. And then the upper limit is going to be 0.768. And now we need to convert that to a percent. So we're going to multiply the lower limit by 100% and then the upper limit by 100%. And so therefore, we end up getting 33.2% for the lower limit. And then for the upper limit, we have 76.8%. So let's go ahead and put that into our problem. So we got 33.2. Okay, and then the upper limit is 76.8. And there is our result. Okay, now it says if greater height was an advantage, then taller candidates should have won more than, exactly, or less than 50% of the elections. In this case, greater height appears or does not appear to be an advantage for presidential candidates because the confidence interval includes 50%, 50% is below the interval's lower limit, or 50% is above the interval's upper limit. Well, in this case here, we would say that if greater height was an advantage, then taller candidates should have won more than 50% of the elections. And in this case, the greater height does not appear to be an advantage for the presidential candidates. And the reason is because the confidence interval includes 50%, meaning that 50% is in this interval. So we would say that the confidence interval includes 50%. Check our answer, and there is our result.